Hello and welcome back to my channel. Jacob Payton here, and I'm talking about Son of the Black Sword by Larry Coerreia. This is part of the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior, which I actually found out about recently, but I think this book came out like 5 or 6 years ago. I just was slow on the uptake, apparently. I have read his Monster Hunter International series, and I did really enjoy that. And I thought I would go ahead and give this book a chance too, since it is kind of lauded as being more sword and sorcery, which is definitely up my alley. And I know that Larry Coerreia writes really awesome visceral action scenes. So I figured, hey, you know, if someone's going to do pretty good sword and sorcery, it's probably going to be this guy. And it says, what happens after the War of the Gods? After the War of the Gods, the demons fell to the earth. To the world, and mankind was nearly eradicated until the gods sent the great hero Ramrowan to save them. He united the tribes, gave them magic, and drove the demons into the sea. Yet as centuries passed, gods and demons became myth and legend, and the people no longer believed. The age of law began. Ashrik Vadal has been chosen by a powerful ancient weapon to be its bearer. He is a protector, one of the elite militant order of roving law enforcers. No one is more merciless in rooting out those who secretly practice the old ways. Everything is black or white, good or evil, until he discovers his entire life is a fraud. Ashrik isn't who he thinks he is, and when he finds himself on the wrong side of the law, the consequences lead to rebellion, war, and destruction. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this book. I'm going to be 100% on that. I thought the world in which it's set was very original. I also like the idea of demons and other like magic kind of coming from the sea. Like it all comes from the sea or it comes from the sky. And I also very much feel that the way it's portrayed, it is very like post-apocalyptic. Like we don't really know from how it's described if it's post-apocalyptic in a modern way, or did this world kind of get destroyed in an already fantasy setting and then this is what came after. But either way, it was really fun. I also really liked the character of Ashrik, because even though he is kind of like it said, morally rigid in the way he goes about things, there is a reason behind that, and one that I am not going to ruin in this review. I don't want to give too much spoilers away, but there's a lot of intrigue here, so don't think that this is just going to be, you know, a Conan-esque barbarian running around just killing everything, because there is a lot more going on. And why Ashrik himself is usually used, it seems, as a weapon, there is a lot of political maneuvering going on around him. And I also very much enjoyed the way that magic is used in this book, because it is not the traditional wizards just running around throwing spells and stuff like that. There is actually a system, and what I mean by that is magic comes from, you know, parts of like the demons and, you know, ruined weapons. I think they call it black steel. So it's not the way that I think a lot of fantasy portrays magic as being like an innate ability that everyone can just like, or not everyone, but some people can tap into and then sling fireballs and cause mass destruction. It actually has a fuel source, so to speak. And I kind of found that to be really interesting as well. I also liked the way he depicted all the different houses, because based on their depictions, it was very hard to place them ethnically. So everyone is kind of seems to be a bit ethnically ambiguous, which I think is also kind of really fun reading in fantasy settings, especially where I guess the mindset seems to be more like most fantasy settings. By page 10, I know it is a typical Western medieval fantasy, whereas this, I mean, based on like sword descriptions and stuff like that, and even names, it was very hard to pin down. Like for instance, you know, people would be described as carrying curved swords, but then being covered in woads. So you can kind of see that each house wasn't so much based on a traditional ethnic background as much as it was a maybe at one point a tribal culture that then came to form these clans and houses after the other world was destroyed. And I thought that was really fun because it honestly, it's little things like that that just kind of keep you guessing in a story, especially for someone like me who just reads a shit ton of books every year. So this was fun because there was not really anything I could be like, oh, I think I know what happens now based on other books like this I've read, because I really couldn't. I mean, even, the fact that demons came from the sea, that's a very new thing. I mean, they're described literally as being almost like sharks, and in some of the fights they have with them, I'm thinking they're like these mindless entities, but then like one of them kind of speaks. So that's something, I mean, I'm really excited to see what Larry Coerreia does with the rest of the books, because I just started House of Assassins, and I think there's like 2 more books out currently in the series, so it definitely seems like it might be a longer series, which is really cool in my book, because I think it's gonna be a really good one. I like the fact that we're getting, even by the end of the first book, we're getting a lot of these side characters that are plotting and planning and very much are having their own adventures, but in a way that I don't think takes away from the main story, but in fact adds to it, because as I've talked about it in this channel, I do not enjoy head hopping that much. But in this book, I'll be honest, I didn't mind it at all, because, at no point was it framed in a way that this is also going to be a main character. So it was, the head hopping that did occur was very sparse and only happened when it seemed 100% necessary to push the story forward. So I really enjoyed that. I mean, in fact, I would even go as far to say that most of the head hopping that happens in this book is used primarily as a way to convey background information to the reader about certain events and why certain things are happening in a way that makes it, because like there are things happening that Ashrik doesn't know about but are affecting him, and there's also things that are happening that Ashrik couldn't comprehend, right? Because if Ashrik knew about these things, it would completely ruin the whole point of the story, right? Especially for someone who's so devoted to upkeeping the quote-unquote law, because the law in this book is very much dealing with also the status quo, as there is a caste system in place. There is a reason for the caste system. Once again, I will not spoil anything in this book, but he's kind of Judge Dredd in a lot of ways. Actually, yeah, now that I say that, Judge Dredd is basically Ashrik Vadal in a best of ways, right? Because Judge Dredd's whole thing, if you're familiar with Judge Dredd, kudos to you, because that is an awesome series, to be honest. Not so much the movies. I like the movies, but if you read the comics, I mean, a lot of them are all over the place, but they're a lot of fun. But Judge Dredd is kind of this Terminator-esque character who's, one of his quotes is, "The law is hard, but it's the law," type thing. But while he is, has devoted his life to upkeeping the law and will do anything to upkeep the law in the strictest, sense of the word, there is also the problematic element of other politicians and other people whose jobs are not only to enforce the law, but also to make the laws and put the laws in place, tend to be very corrupt. And that happens in this book, right? Because these are humans and this is a world, and people with power tend to be corrupted by power over time. So there is a lot of that in this book, where Ashrik kind of has to confront the fact that even though he has devoted his entire life to keeping order and keeping the status quo and obeying the law, the people in power are not always doing that. And in fact, a lot of them are going out of their way to pervert the law to their own ends. So that was really fun to watch as well. And because, I will say this is 100% sword and sorcery. This isn't Game of Thrones politicking. This is full on, when Ashrik gets going, a, murderous kill fest. Think Conan with an axe with his free company. I mean, that is Ashrik with a sword, but he also has like superpowers. So, don't don't listen to the first half of this review and think, oh, this is just a traditional fantasy story masquerading as sword and sorcery, because that is not happening in this book at all. This book, I'm telling you, is sword and sorcery. If you like Conan, if you like your barbarians or your warriors to be more barbarian-esque and not shy away from violence and to just be in the thick of the fight, you're gonna like Ashrik Vadal a lot. He very much reminds me of other characters that Larry Coerreia has done, but like I said, Larry Coerreia kind of does a good job of making these larger than life, tough guy, He-Man-esque characters that just like to wade in the thick of battle. And why that didn't always make sense in like his series like Monster Hunter International, it makes complete sense in here, and I really enjoy it. And like I said, I can't wait to see what more he does with the series. I'm also excited about the fact that Sword and Sorcery seems to really be making a comeback. I know there's several magazines out now, and there's people putting on anthology series, but also Bane Books, who put this book out, has signed some authors that are supposedly putting them out. And like Cake and the Dam, I did a review on that as well on this channel. So it does seem that we're going to be getting a lot more Sword and Sorcery coming out in the future. I, for one, already have the new Conan book pre-ordered because I'm excited to see where that goes. Yeah, I'm really liking this, renaissance of Sword and Sorcery, I guess if you want to call it that. But yeah, I guess I'm going to conclude this. If you enjoy Sword and Sorcery and horror, or even I would say some darker fantasy series, Son of the Black Sword is going to be right up your alley. And if you just like Sword and Sorcery books, or maybe you're reading classic Sword and Sorcery, you've just found your way in, you're reading some Robert E. Howard, you're reading some Lynn Carter, and you just want something that maybe has a little more depth and something that's going to be part of a longer investment, I would say 100% go ahead and get this book or read it. I checked this out at the library, so you don't have to go buy it, but definitely read it. This was just a lot of fun, and I really cannot wait to read the next one. Well, actually, I already read the next one, but I can't wait to see where the series goes, I should say. And that's going to be all for this video, so if you enjoyed this review, other Sword and Sorcery series I should read, especially newer ones. I'm definitely on the hunt for newer authors putting out Sword and Sorcery books and Sword and Sorcery stories. Because, obviously, while I do love the classics, a lot of the classic authors are now gone, so my reviews don't exactly help their bottom line or help them pay rent the way that, some good promotion could do for some newer authors. And also the fact that the only way we get more stories in a genre we like is to support that genre, and that's something I'm always trying to do. So yeah, if you know of any more Sword and Sorcery series or Sword and Sorcery standalones, or just writers that I should check out that are currently writing, then let me know in the comments below. And if you like this book, didn't like this book, also feel free to let me know. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Please like and subscribe.